Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. And I don't know if it's just me because I had like a really bad day yesterday and that's why you didn't see videos, but this article just pissed me off. And I don't know, I think I might actually get upset talking about this, but I read this and it was like, oh my gosh, this article, this stupid, brainless article. You know what this article reminds me of? This article reminds me of those old Christian magazines that used to take this "won't somebody think of the children" approach to try to stifle creativity and to tell people what they could and couldn't do, watch, or say, when the reality was all they had to do was parent. Story time. I grew up in a Christian household. My parents were actually fairly strict about what I watched, listened to, not so much what I read, but, you know, a few things. They wouldn't let me read Stephen King when I was young, for example. But for a long time, I couldn't watch PG-rated movies. Up until like 10 years old, I couldn't watch PG movies. Until I was 13, I could not see a PG-13 rated film. They started letting me go a little bit early in the R's because I proved to be a very mature child. But the bottom line is they had strict reservations in the house about what we could and couldn't watch, and they held to them. And you know what? Some people might say, oh, Kevin, that's awful. I was like watching Alien when I was 5. No, that's fine. It's actually perfectly fine. They kept me watching the things that I probably should only have been watching at that right age. And you know, in regards to like, you know, Alien and all these other R-rated movies like Rambo and stuff, I got to see them when I was an adult and thus old enough to fully comprehend what they were saying. But my parents did not blame television for the bad stuff that was on it. It did not blame the movies for the bad things that were being shown. They did not blame the musical lyrics. Because you know what? If they disagreed with those things and they didn't want me or my brother to see or hear them, they simply just were not allowed in the house. And they approved certain friends that I could go over to, and they were just very involved parents. They were constantly involved in my life. And here's the thing with Netflix. Netflix has a lot of problems. They do. My chief complaint with Netflix is truly that while Netflix saves a lot of movies from development hell and makes them, the fact that you don't get to see them in theaters most of the time is a huge, huge problem, because movies like Mudbound and Death Note and Beast of No Nation deserve to be seen in theaters, not on a streaming service. I'm still pissed that we didn't get to see The Little Prince in theaters. Well, okay, I saw it in theaters, but most people didn't. So that's my chief concern. But you know what my chief concern is not of Netflix? It is not the content they're producing, because Netflix produces a wide variety of content and they give parents the tools to monitor what their kids are watching. And this article is just, and I'm going to get like a little personal. This article is such a millennial way of thinking, like, it's so hard to raise kids, the companies need to do it for me. No, they don't need to do anything of that sort. They don't have to do anything. It's your job to monitor what your kids are watching. And we're going to look at this article. Again, this seems like something that would come from like a Christian magazine that just wanted to blame the rest of the world for their problems rather than parent themselves. But here we are. Now I believe it's the liberal media who's actually saying, won't you please think of the children? These are the kind of things that The Simpsons used to mock. But anyway, so let's look at this article. This is such a doozy. Shiny and powerful. Netflix is the entertainment industry's Trojan horse, a seeming gift for families, allowing parents some control over what their kids can watch. In reality, what Netflix delivers should give parents extreme pause. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem with his first paragraph. He says gives parents some control. This is true. Netflix does give some control. In fact, I would argue they give a lot of control, which we will deal with later. But ultimately, it's up to the parents. And so by starting off by saying, oh, Netflix gives us some control, but we got to be careful what they're selling. Yeah, that's kind of like going to a movie theater and saying, like, yeah, there's a couple family films in there, but you got to be careful. There are also non-family films. Yeah, I know. Don't see them. It's that simple. Anyway, I wonder if I'm blowing my argument too early. I don't know. This article pissed me off. In just over 20 years, Netflix has gone from being a relatively small-scale DVD sales and rental company to an entertainment industry superpower with an estimated 125 million subscribers worldwide and the ability to attract A-list writing and acting talent while garnering top awards and industry accolades. Yes, good for them. Unfortunately, during these years of stratospheric growth, Netflix seems to have given little thought to the family audience that have proved to be the backbone of the company and provided the solid foundation for growth and stability that has attracted investors and enabled Netflix to make multi-million-dollar investment development details. And there's another argument that I do not like. Now, because here's the thing, you cannot prove that families are the backbone of Netflix. There's just no way you can prove that. Netflix can provide the numbers, and if they do, then maybe you have to say. But the thing is, I don't know that Netflix is just a family service. I'm not going to say that Netflix was what, got built up by the family unit. I think almost everyone I know has a Netflix, from families to married couples without kids to single people to retirees. Everyone has Netflix, or very, very close to everyone has Netflix. Families are no more the backbone than everyone else. And, that is just something that this writer is completely missing, or they're completely ignorant about it, because they continue. Netflix has been happy to build its business on the backs of family audiences, throwing them the occasional bone of a reboot of an older favorite TV series like Gilmore Girls or Full House, or offering a reliable yet oddball collection of children's programming that runs a gamut from The Little Prince to Captain Underpants, or even announcing a commitment to building faith and family-based shows. Netflix hasn't released any detail about what this would look like. And at this point, I'm kind of going like, okay, what's the problem? Yeah, okay, so yeah, you're still going with this whole argument that they're building the company on the backs of the families, but it shows that they are clearly also catering to the families. They are rebooting family-friendly shows like Full House and Gilmore Girls, which I would argue actually isn't a family-friendly show, but, whatever. And they have The Little Prince and Captain Underpants. So what? And they're actually going to be making faith-based shows. What's the problem? Well, here's apparently what the problem is. But Netflix has been unwilling to make the kind of meaningful reforms that would make family viewing a safe and enjoyable experience for all members of the family, and has been too willing to defend potentially harmful, problematic, even pornographic content. Yeah, okay, you can probably see where I'm going with this and why I was saying that this is an article where they blame the company for not parenting, because here's the thing. Netflix has been unwilling to make the kind of meaningful reforms that would make family viewing a safe and enjoyable experience. No! That's not Netflix's job. Netflix's job is to make content, and it's to distribute it. And by the way, Netflix does so much. Like, I know he's going to address a couple of things in the article, but I'm going to, state it right now. First of all, they have the the Netflix Fit Kids and Family section, where there's only kid and family approved movies. Also, there's a parental password. You can lock potentially offensive content behind the parental password. And third, parents don't have to put Netflix on the kids' personal iPads, on the smartphones. Heck, kids don't even need to have those devices. Netflix can be a living room exclusive thing where the parents are in control of the remote. Netflix has given plenty of tools for parents to properly monitor what their kids are watching, and if you're too stupid to use those tools, I can't help you. But now, of course, we're going to go to the next argument, and I know someone that I am personal friends with. If she's watching this, I know we've had this discussion. This is not personal. I'm just saying that up front. Netflix distributes pornographic content. Yeah, we're actually going there, I guess. Last year, Netflix released 13 Reasons Why. Oh my gosh, that's their first example for this. 13 Reasons Why, the show that has I guess 5 sex scenes, and 3 of them are shown in very negative lights because they're rape, and it's making a clear case not to do that. That's going to be your first example? Oh boy. Anyway, let's continue. An original series based on a popular young adult novel of the same name about a teenage girl who commits suicide despite concerns from school counselors and suicide prevention experts about the possibility of suicide contagion. Yeah, this is one of those monkey see, monkey do situations where someone is always going to blame the media like, oh, people are going to ape this. And you know what? It's been going on for years. People have been saying, oh, are people going to mimic Rambo and they're going to shoot a bunch of people up? Or people going to mimic Pokemon and they're going to, I guess, travel the world catching monsters and balls. Parents always have an issue with entertainment and what kids will mimic. And for a while there was some concern. I mean, way early in the 60s, we could not have dreamed that when kids watched Superman, which was a big show at the time, that they would put on their capes and jump out the window thinking they could fly. And we learned a very hard lesson that, yeah, you need to tell your kids what the difference between reality and fiction is. And that's no different with teenagers. Which, by the way, the show was not made for teenagers. The show was made for adults. It is rated TVMA. I actually made a video about that. So, this is just an argument that's been around for years. After its debut, Google searches on how to commit suicide spiked by 26%. Nevertheless, Netflix renewed for a second and even third season. Well, they can't control what people Google. And by the way, yes, it is true that sometimes shows do put ideas in people's minds. They want to look things up. And you know what? Just because someone Googled it doesn't mean that they were going to go through with it. Some people might have been looking it up to see what it entailed and see what people's experiences were. Of course, I encourage anyone, please don't do that. If you have any suicidal thoughts, get help. Reach out to a friend. Call the suicide prevention hotline. And you know what? Those are the search results that when you search for something like this, those pop up first, the prevention sites. So a lot of people, when they Google that stuff, they still get access to the people that can potentially help them. When asked about the controversial program during the 2018 shareholder meeting, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings callously remarked, "Nobody has to watch it," which is true. Nobody has to watch it. My parents did not take this whole stand. Oh, well, The Simpsons is the #1 show on TV and it's a cartoon. My kids want to watch it. Let's watch it. No, they just didn't. In fact, they were so strict for a while. I think we only watched Seventh Heaven for a while because that was the only G-rated show that was on TV. And I'm bringing that up, and that's going to be important later on. Well, of course, nobody has to watch it, but people do. Kids do. And based on news reports, some of those kids have been inspired by it to consider taking their own lives. Well, here's the thing. First of all, yeah, people will watch some of this stuff. Not up for you to decide whether or not that's okay or not. Like, I personally have a problem with kids watching Teen Titans Go. I think it is detrimental to kids' developmental status. I believe that they could be watching much better shows, and I don't think they gain anything from it, either intellectually or, nutritionally. I'd much rather have a 5-year-old watching Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers, or heck, even Dora the Explorer. But that's not my call to make. And while I am offended that some people watch it, again, that is their choice. It is the parents' choice to let them watch it. The fact that they do might bother me on a personal level, but it doesn't mean that I want there to be no access to it whatsoever, which is what this person clearly seems to want. And again, considering is not actually doing. 13 Reasons Why, which was based off a book that was very, very highly acclaimed when it came out, I think did more for teenagers who were feeling helpless to talk to people. And that's a statistic this person's not going to be mentioning, obviously. So let's see here, going past the ad. Last December, Netflix began airing Argentinian film Desire, which depicts a 9-year-old girl masturbating to them. Okay, I watched about 30 minutes of that movie and then stopped because it was frankly terrible. The scene is at the beginning of the movie, and there's two things. I know that this scene caused a lot of people to get upset. But first of all, it's not masturbating. It just isn't. Watch that scene. It's not masturbating. Now, it is a girl getting aroused, and she is getting very, very aroused. And I think that scene is depicting a young girl discovering her sexuality for the first time. Now, other countries have very different feelings about that than we as Americans do. Most people in America don't want kids to be discovering their sexuality at that early of an age. I'm actually one of those people, believe it or not. But it doesn't mean they don't think that way. And you know what? You can't tell them what they can and can't, put in their movies. And you don't have to watch it. Again, it's that simple. But let's continue this stupid thing. In response to critics, director Diego Kaplan said, "Everything works inside the spectators' heads, and how you think the scene was filmed will depend on your level of depravity." That's basically him saying, yeah, you don't want to talk about this? Well, of course it's going to come off looking really weird. He also prefaced this remark by saying, "Because I know this scene might cause some controversy at some point, There is making of footage of the filming of the entire scene, which, again, she's not masturbating. She's just not. She's watching TV, and there's like a cowboy, and she's jumping up and down on a toy and getting aroused for the first time. Now, again, that doesn't sound a whole lot better, but it's just not masturbating. It's not. Why should he have anticipated that the scene might cause some controversy if the depravity is all in the viewer's head? Do I even need to answer that one? Because people make big deals out of the things that they misunderstand all the time. That's why. This kind of hollow defense of indefensible content Netflix is making more and more often these days. Well, Netflix didn't make that, to my knowledge. So, if they did. But I'm under the impression they just distributed it. I was not under the impression that they made it. Petitions to cancel teen-targeted insatiable for fat-shaming content have fallen on deaf ears. Yeah, because they're stupid. They complained about it before the show even came out. And the thing is, people are still complaining about that, oh, it's fat-shaming. Not because it's just a bad show that I couldn't get through 4 episodes of before it started to feel like work. Same with the petitions to cancel the disturbingly sexualized animated series about puberty called Big Mouth, which I would argue is not... That show I actually do like. And it is not, sexualized animated series. No, it's about puberty and the awkwardness of puberty. And most people who've gone through puberty relate to it very well. Some people don't. The mysterious Mr. Enter wrote a very negative review because he just did not relate to it. But most people did relate to it, as evidenced by the 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes. And, you know, that's like a whole other topic, but just because you think it's offensive, and I can understand why a lot of people would find that show offensive, but I don't personally, that doesn't mean it's pornographic, of course. Difficult for parents to monitor child experience, and of course, here's one that I've been arguing for a while. A 2017 analyst by the Parents Television Council revealed that nearly 60% of Netflix's original offerings were rated for mature audiences only. Just 1% were rated for general audiences, and only 8% were rated PG. So, what's that got to do with anything? If they produce more mature content, I think it's because people watch more mature content. Again, when I was growing up, before there was Netflix, for years, the only show we could watch was Seventh Heaven. That was the only G-rated show on TV. And years before that, you could watch other G-rated shows like Home Improvement and Family Matters and Full House and Touched by an Angel. And believe it or not, even Roseanne. Most of the early Roseanne episodes were rated G. Believe it or not, it caused a lot of controversy, but they were technically G-rated. And the reason TV got more and more mature is because people watched more and more of them. If there were more hit family shows, then they would make them. In fact, because I bet you know that little thing earlier that said that they were making faith-based films? It's because Netflix realized there was a market they weren't catering to, and they're going to cater to that market. So watch those movies and those shows, support them, and they might make more of them. You can't complain about them not having family-friendly shows if you will not support the shows and the videos. Just saying. And although Netflix does offer some parental controls, there they are. Our research found that even if a child might not be able to stream adult-rated content when those controls are turned on, there was nothing to prohibit a child from browsing through an adult user's profile, where he might see highly sexually suggestive titles and cover art like Zack and Miri Make a Porno and Nymphomaniac. Now, that they've got a little bit of a point on. They do, not gonna lie. And maybe the next step would be that certain accounts will have to be password protected. But again, there is a family and children section that is default there. It's always there. You can't even disable it, as far as I'm aware. Put Netflix in the living room only. Don't put it on the personal computers, and monitor your kids when they're street watching Netflix. Just have them browse the kids and family section and nothing else. Problem solved in that case. Our research also found adult titles grouped with child-targeted content, so that titles like Sausage Party, with its cartoonish yet suggestive cover art, appeared next to family titles like The BFG, Family Guy. Family Guy appeared next to Finding Dory, and the image of a sex toy in the cover art for Grace and Frankie was displayed just above the children and family menu. The children and family menu options don't have any titles next to them. They just, when you click children and family, all these things you talk about, they're not even there. Not even there. We also found that it was difficult for parents to entirely eliminate categories of content they don't want displayed at all. Well, the thumbnails don't have nudity. And what's interesting is that, of course, they keep pointing out the nudity, the sex, the steaminess. And how many thumbnails on Netflix have violent content where someone's being shot or something to that effect? It's really funny. You know, I used to have like this question I would ask my friends' parents when I was younger. Because, you know, I went to church and they were all church-going people. And I had to ask, okay, here's a theoretical question. Say Jesus comes to you. And he says, I've got bad news. Your kids are going to sin in a big way. A very big way. They're either going to kill someone or they are going to have premarital sex. But here's the good news. I'm going to give you the choice of what sin you want them to fail in. And I ask them to answer, which one would you prefer? Under that hypothetical situation. Now, it's interesting. No one ever actually answered. In fact, they always would try to get around it saying, like, your question is flawed because that assumes someone's going to sin in a big way. And no. It was not a flawed question. That was the entire point of the question. If you believe in the Bible, we are all sinners. We are all going to make mistakes. So it's not, it's not too far-fetched that Jesus would come and say, hey, I'll give you a choice which sin you want them to do. Just tell me. And the reason no one wants to actually answer that hypothetical question is because every single time, they pick the premarital sex. They don't want their kids murdering anyone. But then that would have to point out the contradiction they have. Why are the movies with all the violence and all the killing so much less offensive than the, movies and shows that have all the sex? Why? And I think it's, of course, probably because, having premarital sex is just way more easy to grasp. But you know what? And here it is again. They're just totally ignoring the violent content that are in the thumbnails, which is far more prevalent than any sexualized images you're going to find. But let's continue. It's important to know that Netflix recently added a way to let parents block individual titles, and that's a good step. However, this also requires parents to know about each and every title available on the platform. With the thousands of titles available at any time, that's impossible. It's true. Families have become increasingly reliant on Netflix as an alternative to traditional broadcast and cable television, but the reality is that Netflix is not trustworthy. Well, no company is completely trustworthy. Even Disney started getting into the PG-13 game. You just have to know what it is you're watching, and Netflix isn't any different from cable and broadcast TV. In fact, it's better because unlike broadcast TV and cable TV, which never airs anything G-rated, not even Cartoon Network. All their cartoons are rated PG now. Those things, they put the shows on the air, and you either watch them or you change the channel. Netflix, you can scroll through all the titles, pick something you want to watch that's family-friendly, and watch it, and apparently 40% of their content is that. So what's the problem? And today, Netflix is defiant when it comes to owning any responsibility for the potentially harmful products they deliver, because they don't have any responsibility. They don't even make harmful products. Maybe certain people might take certain things the wrong way, but they're making movies and shows. People have been blaming these things for ruining society for years. You can choose not to watch them. They're not making you. And they provide enough alternative family content and soon faith-based content that there's really no excuse to watch the stuff that you don't like if you have Netflix. At a time when all of Hollywood is rightly consumed with Me Too and the most powerful are falling left and right, how can Netflix execs simultaneously ask us to be entertained by rape-driven teen suicide? That is completely missing the point. That is totally... I think more people were fascinated by 13 Reasons Why, not necessarily entertained. Or to laugh at the sexualization of children. No one's doing that. To be amused by girls struggling with vicious bullying and fat shaming. No, I think they're amused by the revenge. Although, again, it's not a very good show and not a lot of people seem to agree, so maybe they're not enjoying this and it won't get a second season. Netflix executives need to adopt that old school principle and realize that they're either part of the problem or part of the solution. They can't have it both ways. And they don't want to. They're going to make content that sells, that will sell subscriptions. And hey, if that is mature rated content, then so be it. There was a reason HBO, with the exception of Sesame Street of all things, does not make family-friendly content, because you know what? It's not worth it for them to go after the family audiences. Family audiences don't want to pay the premium prices for a premium cable channel. Disney learned that a long time ago. That's why the Disney Channel went from a premium channel to a basic cable channel. And they, just show pretty much mature rated shows. And if you complain about it, you're stupid, because you have to pay for that. That is a totally optional add-on. Unless Netflix is willing to better serve families and distance itself from these more problematic programming choices, or until Netflix shareholders use their voices to drive change from within the company, families would do better to choose alternative streaming services. Well, like what? Hulu has the same thing. It has adult programming and children's programming. And unlike Netflix, they don't separate the categories. It's all there. Crunchyroll has some kids anime. Has a lot of adult anime as well. Filmstruck, pretty much made for film fans. Let's see here. What else? I guess PureFlix is a safe streaming service if you want religious material. But the thing is, most of these streaming services, they cater to adults and to kids. When Disney releases their streaming service, that will probably be family friendly, but guess what? Pirates of the Caribbean and Marvel movies will probably be on there. PG-13, watch it. These companies are not interested in your morals. They're not interested in your kids' moral. They're interested in making money. And the thing is, the easy solution to all of this is to simply not watch the movies you don't want to watch. It's that simple. Truly it is. But you say you can't control your kids. Look, you can't control your kids all the time. Even I'll admit that. Like, I go back to my parents who had these rules. When I got older, they would leave me home alone a lot. And we had a massive VHS collection. And VHS has no parental lock. So I was sitting home alone with titles like Dances with Wolves, Pretty Woman, and Good Will Hunting, movies I really wanted to watch. My parents just had to trust me that I wouldn't watch them, and I didn't. I respected my parents enough to not do that. And yeah, sometimes kids are going to watch things they shouldn't watch. And when you find out that they've done that, then you deal with it. You deal with it. You don't just say, oh, well, I guess that's that. No. You punish them for breaking the rules and breaking your trust. Not severely, not abusively, but you parent. And that is what is missing in this day and age. Netflix is not part of the problem. Because if it wasn't Netflix, we had issues before. Unless you want outright censorship, which I do not want, choose to watch what you will want to watch. Choose not to watch what you don't want to support. So, heck, everything has to be so extreme. I even know someone who canceled their Netflix subscription because they made a deal, Netflix that is, made a deal with the Obamas. This person does not like Obama, really hates Obama, does not want to support a company that will give him money. When the logical solution would be, well, don't watch the Obama-produced programs or the ones that he's in. And if they're not successful, they won't renew the contract. So, anyway, articles like this just really tick me off. Like, who wrote this? Tim Winter. Tim, be a parent. Be a man. This article is garbage. It's not worth wiping my butt with. But anyway, what do you folks think? Do you agree, disagree? I would love to know. Is it Netflix's responsibility to parent, or is it your job? I would love to hear your thoughts. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but even so, $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. As always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.